Hi, thanks for checking out Craig's Studio 12, also referred to as CS12. Today's video is about the studio itself, a little bit of history, a little bit about myself, and a little bit about the equipment that's used. So Craig's Studio 12 is maybe about a year old at most. It's actually my second studio. My first studio was partnered with an individual, Dave Radke, good dude. We worked a nonprofit studio, for about 3 years together, and now I'm doing Craig Studio 12. So Craig Studio 12 does everybody's first recording for free. After that, it depends on the project, and we would just work out the details as we go. I don't have set pricing. I'm more interested in getting your first song to be the best that it can be. I do use Logic Pro X, one of the industry standard software. I do have a mic locker of about 5 or 6 microphones. Most are vocal, some are multi-use for vocals and recording instruments. I did start out with very entry-level equipment. For those who may be aware of some of the equipment, I had a Scarlett 2i2 second generation interface. At the time, my only microphone was a Shure SM7B, and I used a cloud lifter, which is common with the 7B, and that was it. Eventually, I obtained about a $90 tube preamp, which is used for microphones to give them some color, some additional gain or volume, among other things. And I'd used that equipment for years and years. If you check out the music below, the first section, all of those recordings were done with that equipment, except for one, which used a Studio Project C1 microphone, which would be kind of considered a Neumann U47 clone, so it's a little brighter. Good microphone, but again, we're in the more entry-level aspect of things. In order to step things up, let's say, I strategically invested this year thousands into equipment and special headphones for my end of the business. Those upgrades included a interface going from 2-channel to 4, a Heritage Audio Neve clone preamplifier, a DBX 160A compressor, USA built, so it does have a touch different sound than the other one, made overseas. The analog quality and sound that comes through is just really puts a nice touch on any recordings that we have. I do use professional monitors, but being in a untreated environment, the headphones are typically where I go. Monitors for referencing the material that I've been working on. Things are very laid back. However, my dedication to your song and your song coming out at the greatest quality possible are immense. I've put anywhere, I think one of my shortest songs was maybe about 8 hours of time, start to finish. And I've had songs where, in order to get it right, I've put in 40 hours plus. Again, all for free for the artists that are recording with me, for at least their first song. It just depends on what we're working on. If you're somebody who's worked with me and I need to test a new piece of equipment, you get another free song, because I'm not going to charge you for my learning of something new, but I can't learn the new equipment without using it. So there's uh, there's reasons for everything along the way. Um, Going back to the laid back part, I don't like stressful situations. So I have a process that I've put into place to help everybody be as relaxed as possible, as comfortable as possible, and thus performing at your peak capability. That's really what I'm trying to pull out of you. Um, there's a lot of growth happening. Um, there's going to be some upgrades and other things that are going on. But for the most part, I consider myself low budget, high quality. For example, I'd love to have a vocal booth in order to get pristine vocals. The recordings you'll hear with the old equipment sound pretty good. Um, but when you go down to the next section to the new equipment, something else was added. I created a do it yourself, mobile, collapsible vocal booth. And I use it in the room, which in my current setup is my kitchen. Um, I use it in the room. What it does is removes room reverberations, echoes, weird frequency responses, things that make life kind of, kind of a nightmare when it comes to mixing and mastering your song. It looks a little weird, although a lot of people use this sort of setup because it is inexpensive and highly effective, which those two things seem to rarely go together. But in this instance, that is absolutely the case. So you'll hear the difference in the vocals, um, with the upgraded equipment, that makes a big difference as well. But without the do it yourself recording booth, vocal booth, it's used for both. I just set it up a little bit differently, whether we're recording a guitar or somebody's doing their actual vocal tracks. It changes shape a little bit. Um, you'll hear it. It's clear as day. So that is what the studio does. I specialize in vocal recordings. So those would be vocal covers, meaning we would obtain an instrumental track. I have access to about 54,000 plus instrumental tracks. They cost me $2. I don't charge. Um, and they allow a vocalist who does not have music to play to be able to perform their vocals. And we mix it down, and as you'll hear, all of those songs on there except for the a cappella are vocal cover recordings, meaning we obtained an instrumental track and added the vocals to it, yet you'd never know. They're mixed and blended well. I do have quite a few solo artists, which is vocal and instrument, typically guitar and a lot of times ukuleles, um, that I have recorded. They are not on the site. I am actually wanting to use the new equipment for the solo artist recordings moving forward, and those will typically be the ones that you'll see on the site, for those of you checking things out from time to time. And as far as the studio goes, that's really about it. Any questions, always feel free to reach out. Otherwise, this next video here is going to go into kind of how I go about recording an artist, um, and maybe answering a couple of additional questions some of you may have. So thanks for joining me.